taking vacation. That's right. I've got my blue on today because I'm gonna head on vacation near the water tomorrow. And this topic is super important to me. And thank you, Aisha, for joining. And all my guests today. Michael, good to see you guys here. So here's the thing. I have a lot of thoughts about this because it was not always ingrained into me growing up that it was important to take time for vacation, that it was important to take time for rest and to stop and slow down. So for me personally, I had a lot of indoctrinated thoughts coming at me, from family, of course, from society, in general about that what's okay and what's not okay in terms of taking time for yourself, taking time to slow down. And one of the big lessons that I've learned over the past several years is how important it is to hold boundaries. I talk to a lot of clients as well, where we talk about the boundaries that maybe they're not holding at work, in terms of setting expectations of like when you're not going to answer an email, when you're not going to pick up the phone, or when you're not going to be working. And I think a lot of people fall into the trap of, let me just call them bad behaviors, in terms of really not holding the line on your life outside of work. And then it becomes really hard to like backtrack and say, oh wait, no, I'm not going to be available at like 9 p.m. to like respond to your emails. So I think that boundaries is a really big important topic when we talk about the importance of taking vacation, full stop. And you treat people how to treat you, right? So if you let people know that you're always available, even on vacation, most people are going to take. And if you don't force yourself to not give, you can get in a really vicious cycle. And that's what causes burnout. I mean, there's a huge epidemic on burnout right now in this country. And I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised because people don't take their full vacations. The rollovers are happening, or, 20 years in a career and you realize, oh my God, I have 8 weeks of vacation. I've never used, oh my God, why are we doing that to ourselves? Where did this come from that we feel like this is an okay way to operate, that this is a healthy way to operate? The question coming in from Harlem Bloke that says, is it true that you can live a life that is a perpetual vacation? Yeah, why not? It's all possible. How can you find roles and positions that make you just love what you do every day and you would do it for free if you had to? I think that's possible. And I think that, even on vacation, there's things you have to do that, you gotta go get the groceries, you gotta, whatever, right? So I think you can build a life for yourself, where you feel like you're free, because to me, I interpret vacation of freedom. And I think that you can live a life where you feel free. And I'm not saying it doesn't take work. It certainly does. There's a lot of things that go on in our lives that make us feel not free. And a lot of times that also comes from leadership that denies requests, or that doesn't appreciate your need to do it, to honor your needs in the process. And that's a big travesty. I think that's a huge challenge in corporate culture today, which is that, there's these kind of boxes and guidelines that people say, okay, you get 10 mental health days a year, if that, or you get 5, sick days a year, and you can get 3 weeks vacation. And there's it's so rigid. And what I've learned in my life is the best way to live is in flow, in honor of what you need. I've had times where I've been sick for well over a week, And I needed to take that time, A, to like not get other people sick, but also to truly, truly recover and do it well and do it, you know, in an amount of time that reduces my own suffering. Yeah, and we have, you know, somebody's saying here, it takes her days to settle into her holiday. Absolutely. I understand that. And I think that's the case for a lot of people. And I think the reason why that's the case is because what happens is we go so hard, right, for the whatever it is, 3 months, 6 months, a year, before we actually take that vacation, that it takes us so long to unwind because we're not honoring our needs during the normal course of a day or a normal course of the week. And what I'm finding personally, you know, as I left corporate and am building my own life and my own perpetual vacation, that it takes me less and less time when I do take actual vacations to sink into that. Whereas maybe it used to take me like 4 days, like it might take me a day and a half now to just really kind of like let it all go. And I think that's because of my practice of letting it go and letting it go and letting it go during the course of a day or a week, to say, how do I not carry the stress with me? While I'm having lunch, how do I not carry the stress with me? While I'm, you know, having dinner or, you know, reading a book in the evening or doing the things that fill me up. So that's the thing, like when we're going so hard, when we're being asked to do so much, when we're giving so much of ourselves, it's so important to fill our cup up, and not just to the top. We have to fill our cup up to the overflow, because it is from that place that we can give. From our excess, we can give. And this may sound like a whole new concept for those of you who are used to just giving and giving. I think especially women, we give and we give and we give. It's kind of in our nature, and we don't realize, oh, wait a minute now, I gotta fill my cup back up because I got nothing to give. And so this idea of like taking vacations when you need it, and I'm not saying it needs to be a 3-week vacation. You know, I'm saying maybe it needs to be an extra day that week or the following week, or maybe it needs to be 2 weeks to really, really decompress. And, you know, I think we have it wrong in this culture, like that you know, you hear the stories, right, of you know, European countries have like many weeks of vacation a year. I think they're getting it right. Like, yeah, you need, like, you know, they can have like a whole month of August off in some countries, and absolutely, because we weren't built to be all up in our head all the time, solving problems all the time. We were built to be in nature. We were built to touch base with our true self, our inner self, and doing that while you're in the midst of work and stress is very, very challenging. So yeah, I think that part of what's important in shifting culture, in embracing vacations, also comes from leadership, where, you know, we're not shaming people for asking for what they need. Can I just like let that sit for a minute? Where leaders are not shaming people or making them feel guilty for asking for time off, for asking for what they need. Because that behavior is what deters people in the first place from honoring their needs and then asking for it. You know, and let's be clear, right? From your own, from you at work, all right? You are not going to save the day. Like, the world will go on without you. The meetings will go on without you. The projects will go on without you. So, you know, in terms of your own barriers to taking time off, you know, it's also about looking at your ego and saying, look, honey child, like, I know you get a lot of value from work, you know, and I know that, you know, you might even enjoy all of that. That's fine. And the world will go on, and it's okay to take the time, you know. Oftentimes these inner critic voices like build up and say, oh, but like they're going to need you because you have this particular expertise, or like, oh, the team is going to think you're totally, you know, slacking off on them, or they're going to think that you're not committed. Are you kidding me? Like, that's not real. Like, I have no doubt that everybody watching this has proven their work ethic, that has proven that they're committed to the team and the goals, and that there is no way that missing a week or even 2 weeks or whatever is going to make people think differently about your commitment. And you know what? Even if they do think that way, who cares? Is that how you want to live your life? Worry about what other people think? You're taking care of yourself. And when you take care of yourself, what that means is that you are empowering other people to take care of themselves. We have to show people. We have to show people what's healthy because they're not used to seeing it. Not in this culture, not in these past 100 years here, for sure. So we have to start modeling the behavior that we want, first of all, that we know is right for us, but also to show other people, hey, like, it is okay to take time off. Like, whatever the noise in the machine and the society and whatever your parents told you growing up, like, the reality is you have to honor your truth and what you need. And that's the kind of messaging we have to say over and over again. Yeah, we have to set the standard, absolutely. So, and I think that, definitely in certain cultures, this is even more prevalent. In cultures where, especially in, families that have immigrated here and didn't have an option to take a second off because they were struggling to survive, right? So they carry this mentality and then they pass it on to their children. And then all of a sudden you have a whole generation that doesn't know how to stop because somebody in their past couldn't stop in order to survive. And so I think that's a real, that's a reality that a lot of people experience that's passed down to them. Yeah, so it's not lazy to take a vacation. So if that's going on in your head, right, it's not true. And this comes back to the inner critic piece. How can you look at the data? How can you look at the real information to find your truth versus listening to the inner critic voices? So for example, if you hear your voice say, I shouldn't take Monday off because everybody at work is going to be there because nobody is taking off, well, look at the data. The data is the world will go on without you if you don't go into work on Monday. The data is looking inside yourself and saying, what do I need? Oh, that's a real need. I have a real need to shut it down for at least 4 days. The data is you are not going to get fired for taking a day off. You're not going to be taken off a project for taking a day off. And if that does happen, if any of that happens, you are working in a super toxic, manipulative environment, and I encourage you to get out as soon as you possibly can. And that's the other thing. I think that there's a lot of, especially young people in the workforce, that they're not even aware of what's toxic behavior and what's acceptable, especially with folks with really old mentality about leadership. So, we really have to do the work to help those younger folks realize, you're actually not in a healthy situation. And it's one thing to find a way and a strategy to get through it for a short period of time. And it's another thing to subject yourself to that for months and months and years. That creates a lot of, it can create trauma when you are in toxic environments. So we have to teach young people that it's okay for them to stand up for themselves. It's okay to ask for what they need. And it's okay to buck status quo and question, hey, are we doing the right things here? Because, if you look at what's going on in the world, and if you're the least bit conscious of what's happening in the world, what you will realize is that, a lot of people have it freaking wrong. They have it wrong, and that's why we're in the situation that we're in, because we haven't addressed it. So that relates to everything from Black Lives Matter to Pride Month, to all these things we're fighting for. because it wasn't done right. And that goes to show that in your work environments, just because something has been done over and over, just because these rules have been set and these policies have been set, it doesn't mean that you can't question them. In fact, I freaking challenge you to question them. I hope that you do. I'm doing these Feisty on Fridays because my hope is that I shake some things up in some people's heads to help you to really think differently about what you're accepting as truth, what you're accepting as reality, versus really saying, wait a minute, is this right? Like, is this healthy? So yeah, it really, it makes me think about even what's going on in Australia, and a lot of individual companies that are starting to wonder about the 4-day work week. Maybe this makes sense. You think it might make sense to question how we've been doing things all this time, which is leading to stress and depression and suicide. Like, those numbers are insane, and like, if those numbers don't wake you up, I don't know what will, because people can't operate like this anymore. And I know a lot of businesses right now, you have a continuum, right? You have some businesses that are like, oh my God, like, we're not selling anything, for whatever reason, because the industry was super disrupted. And then you have other companies that are like gangbusters, right? Because all of a sudden, like, there's maybe a huge need for what they have to offer in this current time. And so you have some folks who are running, and they're trying to, save the world. And I don't really mean save the world. I mean, like, help the company to, like, keep their profits going or whatever. And so that can get us in a cycle of feeling like, I can't stop. I can't take a break because, like, it's really busy. And, like, I'm in a privileged situation to be in a role where I'm really busy. Like, we can start getting into those kinds of mindsets, which also don't serve us. Because your reality is your reality, and it's okay to honor that. It's okay to say, yes, I'm grateful that I have a job. And yeah, I've been working really, really hard. And yeah, I also need a break, because if I don't overfill my cup, I won't have anything to give in a few weeks or a few days or a few months, whatever that is. So yeah, and especially right now, with so many people trapped in their house, and not getting out into the elements and nature, like this, this is not natural. This is not natural for us. And so it does a lot of damage to our bodies, to our minds. And so it's important to break those cycles for ourselves. And look, whether you're getting out where you live, whether you're able to get in a car and go somewhere, to break this cycle, to get yourself out, to take a true vacation and really get a break, whatever that means for you, whatever that looks like for you. Especially right now, we must, especially people of color, and especially people that have been marginalized during all this, all the xenophobia going on, and those that have had even more psychological challenges and traumas, associated with everything that's going on. Like, I implore you, please pay attention to what you need and take the time off. And look, I know some companies, and not everybody, some companies have said, oh, you take Juneteenth off, or, I think a couple weeks into the protests, take that Friday off. Great, that's a start. And that's not nearly enough for people to process everything that's going on, for people to even attempt to give themselves time to heal from what's being brought up right now. So we have to, as leaders as well, we all have to get out of our world and, like, what we're experiencing and consider, what are other people experiencing? I mean, I haven't even touched on the fact that you have so many mothers dealing with their children and staying on top of their job. They need a freaking break. They need to drop something, and it's not going to be their kids. It's going to be the job. So, as employers, I encourage you to really ask and find out, like, what are your employees needing? What are they needing? Ask them. I've had some conversations with some clients that are like, well, maybe I could do this, or maybe I could do that, to like boost morale or whatever. And I'm like, well, okay. Did you ask the employees what they want? No? Let's start there. So yeah, I mean, again, today my Feisty on Friday is all about taking vacations and taking the time that you need to take care of you, to do the self-care. And I know there's like a lot of things that can get in the way of that. There's a lot of pre-existing beliefs. There's a lot of shaming. There's a lot of guilt. And quite frankly, I grew up in a household where, vacations were very, very few and far between. And I knew very early on that that is not how I wanted to live my life. I did not want to live my life to put on my tombstone that I worked really hard and I didn't use all my vacation days. So I've had a lot of barriers to taking care of myself, right, with these kinds of thoughts, but I also have always known that, like, it is so important to me to live my best life, to do the things that bring me joy, that do the things that give me a break from the grind. And so, and even as I left corporate, paying even more attention to my needs has been really transformational. So what if we all did that? Like, what if we took this 4th of July to say, what needs have I been ignoring? And, the thing that kind of pops up to me right away is we've all, I think, I shouldn't say we all, that's maybe too much, but like, I think there's a whole lot more activity on social media in this time, because we're stuck, right? Because we're not going out. And so that, the need for a digital detox is probably more prevalent right now than ever before. And so that's something to consider. Like, could I, and start small. If you start having a little panic attack from like not looking at your email or like not scrolling through Instagram, set small goals. You know what? I'm going to go an hour without looking at my phone, just an hour. And if that feels too big, okay, start with 30 minutes, start with 10 minutes. I don't care what it is. Start somewhere to say, how do I start to give myself the break that I need where I know that I need that break? And you know what? That goes for everybody, throughout the organization. And it goes, from the CEO all the way down the line, folks. Like, everybody deserves to acknowledge their needs and ask for what they need and advocate for it, and be an advocate for other people who might be struggling and using their voice to ask for what they need. The sooner that we empower ourselves to do it, the sooner other people will feel empowered as well. You have such an ability to create ripple effects within your world, within your communities. And I just encourage you to see that power and leverage it for change, for real change. Yeah, so I talked a lot about vacations. I feel like this is really important to shut it off, to really shut it off. And part of it is because it also allows you to be more productive and effective when you are on and when you are working, right? Because our brains, when they're stressed out, they are not as creative or effective. And so by taking the time off, you'll be able to come back and like kick even greater butt because your nervous system has settled and your brain has been cleared out of all the muck and the fog and the craziness. And I bet you if I asked any one of you guys, like, how do you usually feel when you come back from vacation, right? Like, there's all kinds of positive effects of that. And it also impacts our results. And so look, if you are in a situation where you have to encourage other people to see that truth, pull up the data, do the research, share it with your manager. That's how change happens. It happens through advocacy, it happens through data and information, and helping influence those that have the power to make, different policies and different decisions about how we are kind to ourselves, and this idea of like, are we being kind to ourselves in honoring what we need is so important, because I would bet that you all would be more likely to advocate for your friend to take time off because they're going crazy than you would in advocating for yourself to take time off. And that's something to really consider. Are you being a best friend to yourself? Or are you being really harsh on yourself and making life harder than it needs to be? I certainly know I haven't been a best friend to myself all my life. It's taken me a really long time to realize how bad I have treated myself. The more that I have compassion for myself, and the more that I have love for myself, and the more that I can be kind to myself and give myself what I need, like, the more space I have for other people, the more compassion I have, the more love I have for other people, because I'm giving it to myself first. So maybe that's where I leave you off today, to say, be kind to yourself, recognize your needs, take vacation, shut it off, give yourself a rest, a real rest, and experiment with what real rest looks like for you. Maybe it's with a book, maybe it's not with a book at all. Maybe it's getting out of the house, maybe it's taking a drive, maybe it's trying to get away and stay with somebody else for a little while. Of course, with very safe precautions and masks and all that good stuff. But I encourage you to take vacation. I'm super excited that I'm doing this for myself over this July 4th holiday, because I know that I have been running and gunning, building this business. And even though I do try to practice really great self-care, I also know I need to shut it down so that I can come back with more feistiness, with more knowledge and inspiration than ever before. So I hope you enjoyed this week's edition of Feisty on Friday. And if you want to learn more about me, you can find me at toscadimateo.com. Look forward to seeing you next week. Take care, guys. Bye.